Welcome to the Write Better Fiction podcast, the show that helps you, well, write better fiction. I'm Shane Miller, urban fantasy author, writing coach, and story geek, and each week I'll be talking to industry experts about the writing craft, publishing, and the business of being an author. Enjoy the show. Hello, Fictioneers, and welcome to episode 19 of the Write Better Fiction podcast. Today I'm chatting to AP Beswick all about TikTok for authors. Thanks to TikTok, Adam made enough money to quit his day job earlier this year, so you're going to pick up a ton of actionable tips. Stay tuned for that. Now it's time for Question of the Week. I haven't had any responses yet from last week's question, but I did get a couple more responses on the question from episode 17, Shut Up and Write the Book with Jenna Moresi, which was, do you prefer reading in ebook, paperback, or audiobook? And why? Free Spirited Girl on YouTube said, I prefer paperback for nostalgia reasons. Yeah, I agree with that. There's nothing like holding a physical paperback for nostalgia. And Persephone Diggin said, nowadays I prefer audiobooks because I don't want to ruin my eyes. And I do listen to audiobooks too. Nothing like listening to an audiobook to make chores a little less dull. This week's question is, what is your favorite social media platform and why? Okay, now it's time for my update from the writing chair. If you tuned into last week's show, you'll know that I'm in the midst of resurrecting my myth and magic urban fantasy thriller series. So I've spent all this week working on my marketing and advertising strategy around those books, and I'm ready to quote unquote relaunch them. So I'll let you know how that goes in future episodes. In other news, I booked my flights to 20 books to 50k in Vegas. That's happening in November, and I can't wait. One, because I'm going to get to meet a bunch of author friends that I've only ever met on Zoom before, being that there's an entire ocean separating us. And two, I'm going to get to reconnect and catch up with some people that I haven't seen for a bit. If you are going to Vegas in November, then let me know, because it would be cool to meet up. If you want early access to episodes and exclusive access to the Fictioneer community on Discord, where you can participate in things like Question of the Week and weekly accountability, you can support the show on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. Head over to patreon.com/writebetterfiction to support the show. We also had our very first patron Zoom a couple of nights ago, and we talked about outlining methods and some things that discovery writers can do to mitigate any mishaps in the drafting process. When I reach 50 patrons, I'm going to start recording a monthly Q&A to answer all your writerly questions, and that will be exclusive to patrons only. Okay, that's about it from me. Time to get into the interview with Adam. Hello, and welcome to the Write Better Fiction podcast. Today, I'm joined by AP Beswick. AP Beswick is a dark fantasy and YA urban fantasy author. He's a devoted parent and a passionate writer who embarked upon the wonderful journey of storytelling when his children expressed a desire for an original bedtime story. Night after night, he would sit beside their beds, weaving magical tales that would light up the face of his youngest daughter, and that priceless fascination and joy sparked a fulfilling experience, leading him down a path he never anticipated. In 2023, Adam went full-time as an author, thanks in part to his success on TikTok, which is what we're here to speak about today. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the show.
Hello there.
Hello, hello. Okay, I was wondering then if we could kick off by you telling us a bit more about you and your journey into writing.
Yes, I think you've just read the a good description there, which gives everyone an insight. So I write dark fantasy and YA fantasy. I started out writing in 2018 after my eldest daughter asked me to write a proper story, given that for the last few years I've been writing them bedtime stories. So I did joke to her and say, by the time I finish writing it, you're probably old enough to read it. And she's 13 now and still hasn't read my books, but I think she gets more embarrassed seeing me on TikTok and things like that than anything at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Okay, well, since you brought up TikTok, we are here to discuss that. So can you talk a bit about your content strategy that you use to gain such a substantial following on TikTok? What type of content do you find resonates most with your audience?
So it takes a lot of trial and error. You know, it's very rare you can just create a TikTok account and find overnight success through it. Not saying it can't happen. What you have to be is consistent. As we know, TikTok views can be really inconsistent. So the best thing you can be is consistent in yourself and how you approach TikTok and how you create content. So through trial and error, I found things like when I was first starting out, letting people know that I was also a nurse as well as an author helped resonate with readers. People would become and engage with my content because I was a nurse, but also I was writing books. At the same time that I joined TikTok, I think it was about a week after I joined, I launched my first book in my dark fantasy series, which is the series that really kind of blew up on TikTok and helped me forge a career. So yeah, the little snippets, giving people an insight into you, what makes you tick. I was doing lots of TikTok lives to engage with my audience, as well as doing lots of short form content, kind of treating it like like you would with Facebook ads, for example. So short video with a quick hook to what my book was about, and then a cover reveal, and using trending music to try and reach new readers every time. I quite quickly realised that follower count didn't really matter, as 97% of my content was being found on the For You page. So I went through a few months where near enough every video I was posting was to reach, as if I was reaching new readers every time. And then I'd do my TikTok lives and stuff like that for people who were following and had a vested interest, and then they could jump on there and kind of talk with me and have catch-ups. Then open my TikTok shop. So found on there that packing orders was kind of the dead zone. So it's monotonous, it's boring, it's the ugly side of being an indie author. However, it's a necessity. And I just switched on my phone, put it on TikTok Live, and just had a chat with readers whilst I was packing the orders they were making there and then, and found that formula really worked, and people found that really engaging. And people really like to see their order being packed, not just with books. I've seen that with lots of other things you could buy on TikTok, but people like to engage because they can have the book signed there and then they can see it being packed and being readied for delivery.
Yeah, nice. And you spoke about the early part of your career when I first asked you. Can you talk to people who still doubt the power of TikTok as to what happened when TikTok finally started taking off for you, and how that led you partly to your journey as a full-time author today?
Yeah, so it literally changed my life. So last April, so April 2022 was the first time I had a semi-viral video, reached about 500,000 views. And from that, I basically matched my monthly salary as a nurse from one video, in effect. So that was me posting 3 times a day from January to April before I hit that. But that consistency led to that happening. And what I did was a different strategy than what other authors would do. And I had all my ideas for my books. I had all the covers made, and I did a bit of a showcase of, this is the first book that's out. Second book's coming out very soon. Here's the third, fourth, and a novella that I'm going to be doing. And yeah, did a bit of a backstory with like text overlay and stuff like that, saying, you know, this is going to be a best-selling series. I have every faith in it. You know, why don't you come and follow if you want to kind of see this grow? And it works, because that video, as I said, got 500,000 views. It made me, the first time I made a substantial amount of money for my books, it was quite overwhelming. But that helped me then have the funds to reinvest in having the audiobooks made, which again then helped with the income that was generating. So then it was just a case of that. I saw that formula had worked, so I kept rinse and repeating that formula, trying different songs, trying different hooks, using the same kind of cover reveals, and I still use that method today. I had my first truly viral video in August. which again, it was life-changing. So all that money was invested back into the business to get all my foundations right, so that in February this year, I was in a position to be able to go full-time, and that it wouldn't impact our life at home, because so I was able to pay myself the same wage that I was on as a Band 7 nurse in the NHS. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that family life would not be disrupted by me going full-time, and it wouldn't impact the things we were used to doing. So I think you have to be sensible in those situations. People do throw away crazy amounts of money that some people are earning from TikTok, which I think we could all only wish that we were earning that kind of money. I'm more than happy earning a wage that me and my family can live a happy life and have our holidays. We don't have to worry about our financial situations or that worry about going full time. And it is from being sensible with how we got those foundations set up.
Yeah, definitely. And I had the same experience going full-time as well. But I have to say a huge congratulations, because you went full-time very fast. And listeners don't know this, but Adam and I connected on TikTok in the early days of authors being on TikTok. I disappeared. Adam stuck at it. And when I came back to TikTok, he had like a gazillion followers and was like, yeah, I've left my job now. So that is the power of TikTok if you get it right, guys.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Okay. And you spoke a bit about your posting strategy there. We've all heard that advice that you shouldn't, well, not that you shouldn't promote your book, but you should do it sparingly. What is your view of that?
I think you could speak to 10 different people and get 10 different pieces of advice. You've got to do the content that you're comfortable with doing. Ultimately, with TikTok, it's a brutal world. You've got about 2-3 seconds if you're lucky to capture someone's attention. So bearing in mind that 97% of the time, people don't know who you are. Not everyone wants to hear you talking about your life story straight away, because they don't yet know you. So you need to have something in those first few seconds to hook people to watch that. So I try and mix it up. I do content where I will be heavily promoting my books for a period, and at the moment my videos are more replying to comments and more me talking, as well as doing the odd announcement. My announcements seem to be coming thick and fast at the moment. But for example, I filmed a couple this morning, talking, responding to questions, giving updates, because I'm testing as well how TikTok are pushing more long form content, so not just 10-15 second videos. I think videos that are about a minute long, and keeping people engaged and seeing how those translate into sales. So for my opinion, I use TikTok for what it is, which is a free marketing tool. If people want more meaningful engagement from me, I use other social media for that. So I've got my Instagram stories. I've got a private Facebook group that I open up from time to time, where my dedicated readers are in there, and they will get the day-to-day updates, the back and forth, the conversation, people starting conversations on the group about topics within the story world. TikTok it's not that kind of platform, so I tend to use that for marketing and giving updates, and then the engagement side tends to come on other platforms, although I can and do use TikTok Live to have that physical interaction as well.
Yeah, that's great. Now, speaking of your books, I've read them. They're great, but they are not spicy in any way. And there's this huge perception that only spicy romance and erotica performs really well on TikTok. So as a dark fantasy author, how have you found TikTok success? And can authors in any genre do the same thing?
I would say so, yeah. When I first started out, no one was saying that dark fantasy, it worked. It only worked for, as you said, spicy books, spicy fiction. And I get asked all the time still on videos, has your book got any spice in it? And in the early days, the first time I was asked, I was like, I have no idea what you mean by spicy.
I don't know what that is.
That's how naive I was to the BookTok community, and they are voracious for spicy books. The conversion rate for spicy readers is astronomical. So people watching a video to go in and reading a book on KU and platforms like that, it's phenomenal. One of our friends, our mutual friend, she had a video get about 80,000 views, which led to 100,000 page reads overnight on KU, which is unheard of, especially when it's considering you're not spending any money. My advice would be to just test, the same as you would with Facebook ads or Amazon ads. You need to test to see what formula works for your genre. In the same sense with any advert, you need a hook, you need a cover that is going to convert, but that's only going to get them so far. You need them to then get you to your Amazon page or wherever you're selling your book, but your blurb then needs to kind of seal the deal. So you've still got all those elements have to tie together. So just because a video blows up doesn't necessarily mean you'll get your guaranteed sales, because your cover and your blurb have to do that job in converting watchers into readers, and actually getting people to leave TikTok as a platform to go to Amazon in itself. It needs a powerful video, and from video content, your book cover is the best hook you're going to have there. And if you follow that on with a tagline or something that's catchy on a video, so for example, my first book was a dark fantasy Robin Hood retelling. So I started off using hooks, for example, what if Robin Hood took from the poor and he was an arrogant womanizer, because that's going to catch everyone's attention. And the amount of people that commented saying, "Oh, it sounds like Boris Johnson," which did make me laugh, but it still was converting people because it was generating that conversation.
Yeah.
And then I'd flip it with a cover reveal and everyone would be saying, "Oh my God, I need those books," purely off the book covers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's seeing if anyone else is on there. There's sci-fi authors on there that are doing well now, fantasy. Young adult fantasy is the second biggest genre on BookTok now. So there's a real marketplace for that. As I said, it's just about getting those hooks right and that engagement, something that resonates with the watcher and turns them into a reader.
Yeah, definitely. That's great advice. So we've spoken, obviously, about how your presence on TikTok's translated into book sales, because in a large part it was responsible for you being able to be full-time. What other meaningful engagement have you had with your work? Like, I've seen a lot of people duetting, duetting people's videos showing your book covers and stuff. So what's that been like for you?
Yeah, so if people take the time to create a video about my books, good or bad, I will always leave a comment, kind of thanking them for taking the time to read. The more positive ones, you can duet them, you can stitch them. And what I find is readers really enjoy that, because it's a book they've connected with enough to leave a video praising it. But then for them to then have the author make a video directly to them, that's not a new concept, because TikTok's been here for a few years now, but that's quite a unique relationship you can build with your readers, and almost helps you create super readers and super fans, that because you've made that time to make that one video just for them. But also they'll also see it as then people on my platform are seeing their review, so it works twofold.
Yeah, definitely. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of your super fans made a cover art video where they were zooming through the faces of your characters to get to the latest book. That must have been so cool.
Yeah, that came out of the blue. I was out and I'd had a few pints. Shane, you know me well now.
I do. Yes.
I'd had a few beers, and I got tagged in our Facebook group, so we'd uploaded it onto our Facebook group. To a point where I have reached out and said, "Look, I'd like to work with you, and I'm quite happy to commission you to make some promotional content." So yeah, that was amazing. He used AI. I'm good with AI, but I have no idea how he did that. So for anyone watching, it was basically a shadowy figure of my first book, and the camera's kind of zooming in on the face, and as it goes into the face, it goes into a shadowy figure of the second book and the third book and the fourth book. which results in a big sword in the stone, which was just awesome. It was fantastic. And when you've got readers taking the time to create stuff like that because they're that big a fan, it's quite overwhelming at times. That you've for me, that's how I feel like I've made it. I've got people I've had someone comment today saying that they're working towards giving up their full-time job, and I've really inspired them to do that. And you can't quantify that kind of influence you've had on someone, and that's the bit that's amazing about being on social media. Is people do not just readers, you have other authors that take inspiration from the path that you're walking.
Yeah, they are some of my favorite comments. I must admit, when someone messages me and says, "Oh, I finished my book, and you helped me to do that." And
I've had so many people comment saying it's the first book they've picked up in years and they couldn't put it down. I've inundated with people with dyslexia that for some reason, I think it's because it's short, sharp chapters, that people find it quite easy to read, quite fast paced. So I get quite a lot of people with dyslexia reaching out to me. I had someone this morning saying they've not read for 20 years, but they've not been able to put my books down for some reason. They just can't get enough of them, to the point where I'll release a book now and 6 hours later they're like, when's the next one? and I'm releasing books thick and fast, so and I still can't keep up with the demand.
Oh, that's an awesome feeling. That must be so good, though. That is incredible, amazing.
And then there's another strategy that I'm trying at the moment.
Okay.
If you head over to my TikTok page, I've created a effect on TikTok.
I saw that.
I've created two. One for my Love Anthony series, where people could use AI art to turn themselves into a character in my story world. That's proven quite popular. So put that into context, I created the effect that on its own so far has already generated over 30,000 views from other people making content, not me, but it all links to my book, because it's the Tales of Love Anthony character, which again starts the whole, oh, what's that? And then they go and do the research. So with my new series that I'm rebranding, relaunching, my Spirit Beast saga, which is a YA urban fantasy with the concept of Spirit Beast. So if you think of kind of like demons from his Dark Materials, similar concept, people can physically summon them, except they grant you powers as well based on those animal characteristics. So I've created a filter which will tell you what your Spirit Beast is.
Nice.
So I've got, I've already had 20, 30 uses of it where people have used the filter. They're all tagging me. That's reaching new people, but that links to a video where I've explained what the series is about. So I'm testing how that is going to help with a book launch, because as far as I'm aware, hasn't been done yet. So that'll be quite kind of interesting to see how that progresses. So again, if you're forward thinking, there's so many different avenues you can go down.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about TikTok as opposed to some of the other platforms, is that there's more scope to be creative with your marketing. Like Instagram's great, but there's a set way you can post on Instagram. But with TikTok, there are a lot more ways that you can adapt and try new things and be creative. Yeah,
definitely. And I find that TikTok's easier to use than Instagram Reels. I find it painful when I try and make a reel directly on there, which is why I just cross promote my videos now, because because I'm not used to TikTok. I just find I can make a video in 5-10 minutes and have it posted across all my social media.
Yeah, it is more intuitive for sure.
Yeah.
So we've spoken a bit about interacting with fans and followers and all that sort of stuff. I'm always really interested in how authors interact with followers that are specifically like rabid fans of their books. Apart from obviously the cover video that we just mentioned, can you share a particularly impactful or memorable interaction that you've had with one of your TikTok followers?
I think I've already touched upon it, where readers come to me and said that they haven't read for 20 years. My books seem to resonate more with the male audience, so I think I've got about a 60% male following on Instagram, on TikTok, so that is consistent. I get a lot of readers that are saying that that it's the first book that they've read as an adult, that these are the first books they've read in a long time, that they've got dyslexia, so they've always struggled reading. However, they're finding that now they have a passion for reading because they've realised that they were just reading the wrong kind of books, which I think you can't get a more powerful thing. That is, for some people, it's life changing. That fulfillment, we all know that satisfaction when you finish a book. So for people to be experiencing that for the first time and as an adult, I think that's for me very, very powerful sentiment.
Yeah. And what you were speaking about there, I haven't prepared you for this, but we have a view of like epic or dark fantasy as being these huge, chunky, hard to get through books. Now your books are not very short, but like they're shorter, they're fast paced. I liken your style more to a thriller type pacing.
Yeah.
And for me, I resonated with that. Like I was like, oh, I love the epic fantasy and dark fantasy feel, but I don't necessarily want to read, 800 pages. Was that a deliberate choice on your part?
Yes, absolutely. So I like to push boundaries. People, I did a video on it the other day where people say kind of you have to stay in your lane, you can't switch genres. My series, I'm trying to build a brand, I'm building a world that people resonate in, but I also want characters that people will recognise based on the cover. So, for example, my dark fantasy Father Christmas retelling, on the front cover you've got a muscly Father Christmas with a broadsword. It's quite clearly a Christmas tale, but when you read it, it's written in third-person narration, which goes against what the main series is, because I wanted it to be a bit of a murder mystery monster hunt kind of story. And then I've got an idea now for a story that I want to release it'll be Halloween next year. I just haven't got time to write and release it by October this year, or have I? Maybe that's a challenge I can do.
Who knows?
That fits in the world but is a standalone, so it's set in the same world, it's a standalone, but I would write that in the style of a horror story. So that if there's a horror reader, they might not like the main series, but there's a book there that they can try, they might resonate, but then they might actually think, well, actually, I'll go and try these other books. I've got a cozy fantasy that I'm writing that is set in this world. This is a brutally violent world.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be a bit of a palate cleanser. Well, here's a story that it's just nice. There's not violence, there's not blood, there's not guts, there's not gore. It's just a nice story, but it's set in this. So you've got the familiarity of the world, but it's also introducing readers to a genre that they might not have normally read as an offshoot. So again, I like to kind of push how things are done. Growing up, I used to always read James Patterson novels. I like the short chapters, and that again really resonated with me when I was younger. So I like reading fantasy and dark fantasy, but when, like you said, you've got a 700-800 page book, it can be really overwhelming. And probably because my brain is always on the go, I can't sit and concentrate to read 80 pages just to get through one chapter, or 40 pages to get through one chapter. So I was kind of like, well, I'll kind of write this story this way and hope that there's more people out there like me than there is not like me. And it does work, because as you said, there's people it resonates with. Like anything, there's people it really doesn't resonate with. The negative reviews I get tend to be they don't like the present tense prose, which is fine because that's not for everyone. And then others have said it's too short. The same with my audiobooks. People would say no one's going to buy them because they're too short, but 12 months in, I've got nearly 30,000 audiobook downloads. So there's clearly a market for shorter audiobooks.
Yeah, I think so. And everyone should buy them because your narrator is fantastic.
Yeah, Aaron's amazing. Yeah. We're working. I've just spoke to him. He wants to narrate the rebranding YA fantasy series.
Nice.
Because it's set in the northwest of England.
Yeah.
I was gonna, as you know, with Aaron, he's well spoken. I was saying to him, like, how's your northwest accent? How's your northern accent? and so he's confident he can do it. And I couldn't imagine working with anyone else. He's actually become a really good friend, which is always, you know, really positive. I've worked with him very closely now for a year. He's produced every audiobook. He's now himself a best-selling audiobook narrator through my series. You know, people. I had someone at the SPS conference come up to me and say, "Oh, I've just booked Aaron after listening to him on your thing," and he was telling me this guy's got like 350,000 word manuscripts, so they're good chunky. They're going to be good size audiobooks. So he's loving that. We're actually working, or he's working. He's worked really hard on it. He used to be a professional D&D dungeon master.
Oh, okay.
Which absolutely makes sense.
Yeah.
Given how epic his voice is, and he's working on a campaign, a one-shot campaign that we've got 3 people from our reader group who are experienced Dungeons and Dragons. They've all created characters, and we're doing a campaign set in my story world that links in with the books. So Aaron's created this whole campaign. We've done the characters. He's had the art created. He's got a huge Discord that he's set up with all these details and things that. So we're going to look to expand that. So that's a whole avenue from my books that could potentially be another revenue stream. Because I've said to him, it's something I want to work with him, and we'd work on it kind of 50-50 partnership, because I haven't got a clue what I'm doing when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, but he does. So he's very much the expertise behind that. So that's another exciting prospect.
See, that's so cool. And we get so bogged down in like book sales that we tend not, or some people tend not to think about the other avenues that this could take you into, right?
Yeah, so I think I've just had to change the date because I've had something come up. So we're looking at the 4th of August, and we are looking at streaming it live as well. So there'll be 4 characters, and then Aaron as Dungeon Master. So we're going to record it, see how it does, and then you know, the guys that are joining in the campaign, I've explained to them is that there's every chance that I'll turn this into a novella once we've done. And so the characters they've created and invested in, they'll be seen turned into a character within a story. So they're really excited for that. And that, for me, that's the least I can do for the time they've put into bringing this kind of side venture to life. But again, as I said, it's another avenue that people don't realise is there, especially with fantasy and dark fantasy worlds.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we took a bit of a detour there. So bringing it back to TikTok, with TikTok's focus on trends, and by trends, I mean, you know, like trending sounds, what type of videos are trending, all that stuff. They're ever shifting, like they shift all the time. So how can authors stay on trend with their posts?
Just go through your For You page, because you tend to see, if you're scrolling for your For You page and after 10 minutes there's a certain song that's you've heard a few times, that's potentially a trending song. So you need to save the song, and next time you do a video, use that sound. Don't just use it once, use it 2 or 3, 4 times, and test different types of content to see what works. You also have effects that trend now as well. So people do like seeing the favorite author doing a kind of I think the latest ones are red flags and green flags, which will say, what are your 3 red flags, what are your 3 green flags, and people like seeing the favorite like authors, musicians, celebrities doing these things, because they see that bit of normality from them and how you react to it. So yeah, it's not just necessarily sounds, but also effects and filters that can trend.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not just sounds, definitely. So what advice do you have for other authors, especially those outside of romance and erotica, who are considering using TikTok as a platform? Like, where should they start? Because it can be quite overwhelming.
So download the app, create an account, and start posting videos would be my best advice. You have to be in it for the long haul. You have to be consistent. You have to post regularly, and you need to have you have to have a positive mindset about it. So if a video, you get 200 views, don't have a mindset of, oh, it's only getting 200 views. That's 200 fresh eyes on your book. So you've had a free shot at pitching your book to 200 people for free. So every time you post, have that mindset. Keep testing, keep being consistent. The more you show up, the more you're responding to other people's content as well. You'll see it start to grow. Don't let it become all consuming, because you know, as writers, we have to write. That's the main gist of things. But it becomes easier the more you use the platform. So, you know, I'll within half an hour in the morning, I can have my content filmed for the day, and actually I've had half an hour checking through videos and engaging with people that have been posting videos that I follow.
Yeah, of course. And again, we hear advice not to repost the same or similar content, but I believe you take a different approach and do post some of the same content.
Yeah, so don't repost it on a weekly basis, but even if you had 1 million followers, out of those 1 million followers, who is going to be watching every single video you post every single day consistently for 6 months? No one is. Yeah. So chances are not everyone's seen a video that you've posted. So those videos that did okay a couple of months ago, repurpose them, reuse them. I had my video that went viral in August on TikTok. I reposted that in October on Instagram, and it didn't do anything for 3 months, and then suddenly it blew up on Instagram, and on TikTok it got 1.8 million views. On Instagram it got 5 million views.
Oh wow.
And my Instagram shot up from 5,000 followers to 150,000 followers within a couple of months of that video going viral. So, and that's a repurposed one. So what that tells me is that connects, that converts into followers, it converts into sales. So every now and again, normally about once a month, I repurpose and I'll reuse that video. And I still get, you know, it was a unique video showcasing my books that went viral at the end of April, beginning of May. I had 1 million views. So it's kind of the first one this year that's gone viral. And the amount of comments of people saying, how am I only just finding this series? And that's where you need to, it's often our barriers that stop us from doing certain things. There's tons of advice that you'll see on TikTok. You are automatically drawn to the advice that resonates to you. So sometimes you need to flip that and kind of go against what you've been told to do, because if everyone's doing the same thing, that's just going to make it an even more crowded market. So every now and again, just testing the waters by doing things a bit differently certainly can work, because kind of that's what I owe my career to now. You know, I did a showcase revealing all the book covers at once. That I was always told that's a big no-no. Started off writing the YA fantasy and was told you can't switch genre. I switched to dark fantasy.
Yeah,
that was a no-no. It's worked for me. I repost videos. People might say not to do that. I don't understand why. If you're posting 3 videos a day, even for 2 months, you've a lot of videos there you can be using. 100 plus videos that you can repurpose, and if you do it where you're filming uniquely, then you've got so much content you can go back to and use. And you might get the odd comment saying, "Oh, I've seen this video more than once." Very rarely, but you just move on from it. That's probably our own mental block, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I completely agree. And more of an admin-based question. I get this question all the time when I post a video to Instagram that I've previously posted on TikTok. People always say to me, how do you get rid of the TikTok watermark?
There's lots of, all you have to do is go on Google and ask. But I use Snaptic. That seems to be the easiest one for me to navigate. You just copy and paste your link from your TikTok video into it. It removes the watermark, and then you just download the video straight away. Nice,
easy question. So what is your favorite thing about using TikTok
then? I love the connections I've made with other authors on there. Because everyone cheers each other on. And I know book talk, you've got to be very careful, because if you end up on the wrong side of it, you can be torn apart as quickly as you're raised. But I really love the author community on there. So probably about 95% of people I follow are other authors. And I don't follow everyone that follows me, because it's just not physically possible. But it's when I've seen an author that I connected with in a video, I'll follow them, but then I'll be cheering them on whenever they do updates, or reach out to them. If there's been authors where their videos have blown up and suddenly they've got all this attention they've never had before. They're making life-changing amounts of money, and I'll just reach out and say, look, it's really good, and I'm really happy for you. I know how overwhelming this can be, and if you ever need to reach out, if you ever need to talk, any advice, help with getting your foundation set up right, so that you can do this in the long term, and it's not just a flash in the pan. I'm always here to talk. The only one that I tend to not reply to is if people just dive straight into my inbox. I've never spoken to them before, and it's the more generic questions, like, how do you make it as a writer? How do you? And it's kind of like, look, I physically don't have enough time in the day to respond to all these, but follow, engage on videos, and you build that relationship up, and then you're more likely to get a response from other people when you reach out to connect to them.
Yeah, definitely. It's impossible to reply to every single DM. No. Okay, so this is the Write Better Fiction podcast, and this is my favorite question, so much so that I ask all my guests. So, Adam Beswick, why do you write fiction?
Because the real world sucks.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't really. So yeah, it's escapism, isn't it? So I've always had a vivid imagination. I've always had stories I've wanted to tell. And although this first started out as a passion project, can I write a book? The fact that I've now do this for a job, it's literally a dream come true. I'm a I professionally make things up. That's my job. I make stories up. I create story worlds for people to enjoy. And that does bring joy to other people. So yeah, I love it. It's the best thing I ever did. Like I said, the fact that I get to do this for a living it's crazy, and the fact that it's so enjoyable. There's times where you do sit and think, oh, yeah, I've got some deadlines to hit, but I find that actually I work better to tighter deadlines. But it's a passion, and when your job is your passion, then you've kind of got it right. And work-life balance couldn't be any better than what it is right now.
Yeah, completely agree. It's a fantastic way to earn a living. So can you tell everyone a bit more about where they can find you and everything you do?
Yeah, so I'm over on TikTok.
Funny that.
Yeah, so you'll find me on TikTok and Instagram. TikTok, AP Beswick Author. Instagram, my handle is Northern Writer. Also on Threads. I've just joined Threads last week, as is everyone else. But yeah, struggling to understand how you're meant to consistently engage with people on there, because you can't search them or anything. So yeah, still figuring that one out. I've also got my website, www.apbeswick.com, and all my books are available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on the show, Adam. That was great.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Adam and picked up a ton of actionable tips on TikTok for authors. Join me next week when I'll be chatting to crime author and police procedure advisor to Peter James, Graham Bartlett, all about how to research crime fiction. Have a great writing week. Thanks for listening to the Write Better Fiction podcast. Remember to hit subscribe on your favourite podcatcher and leave a review, and we'll chat again next time.